I don't know where to start, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but what I know very well is that what people think they know is one thing, and what they discover after a while is something completely different. But that's not important. It's enough for me to let you know that during the British occupation of Egypt, a man named Salah al-Adar was living. And today I will tell you his story. Salah Muhammad al-Adar was originally from the Qajar tribe, and not just any tribe. He was a descendant of the tribes of the Qajar. This is what the rest of the tribes inherited from him. He was famous for practicing all kinds of sorcery and worshipping the devil. And in their rituals, not only are they far from the Qajar, they are also far from humans in general. And this is what Salah saw, who was originally from the Qajar, but she was from another tribe. Salah saw that what the people of her tribe were doing was the end of the world, and that's why the mother took Salah and ran away in secret. She thought she was protecting him and herself, but she didn't know that she had taken with her a black calamity. And because the origin was over, Salah had to go back to his origin. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. I am Olivert James, and this is the Narrator's Program, a new episode inspired by real events. And today I really feel like a cup of tea with mint, which I really like. There is a twist in today's story. The story is from the book of Olivert James. Let's see what is the story of Salah al-Adar. By the way, this has nothing to do with the story of Salah al-Adar by Sami Michel. This is a story, and this is a completely different story, but similar names. And what is the story of the tribes of the Qajar? And what is the magic they were famous for? And who is Salah al-Adar? Let's have a cup of tea with mint and start the episode. Let's go. Saleh's mother took the job from her husband. She sold her gold and bought him a shop and an apartment. And she opened a small perfume shop. This was her source of income. And at the beginning of the story, Intizer used to wake her son up to go with her to the shop. But like any child, he got sick and refused to go down. Salah was 12 years old at the time, so she couldn't tell him that a child in his age is afraid of him. So she left him and went down. And as soon as she left, Salah heard footsteps in the apartment. His mother remembered her and came back to make sure he was asleep. So she made him sleep again. But the sound of footsteps was getting closer to him, and he started to feel hot breaths on his face. The sound of high breathing and this heat could not be from his mother. He opened his eyes slowly to find the ugliest face he had ever seen in his life. A black face and a scarred feeling. Red eyes as if they were balls of fire or blood. A scary smile that showed his long eyes. The child was horrified. His mother was like an electrician. And here this creature laughed while saying a strange sentence. "Do not be afraid, for I am sent to you in heredity." The sound was not out of his mouth. His lips were closed and the sound was inside Saleh's brain. The child wriggled around him. He still did not understand or comprehend anything. He reached out his hand to this creature with a book other than any book the child had ever seen. His cover of black skin resembled the skin of the creature in front of him. Huge, yellow, and thick pages. And without taking the book, Salah replied to him, "I do not want anything. This is your heritage, Salah. This will make all your dreams come true. We know that you will not comprehend what is in it now, but it is yours. And when the time comes, you will realize the importance of what is in front of you." The child screamed. He said with a high voice, "I tell you, I do not want anything from you." After his scream, the creature disappeared. But the book did not disappear. The book remained in front of him on the bed. The child approached the book with fear and held it. And although he touched the book, curiosity made him open it. His pages were empty. Salah held the book in his hand as if it was a sign that what happened was not a dream. And he remained like this all day, afraid to move from his place, until his mother came and saw her son standing still in his place, not fully aware of its existence. And he held in his hand a strange book that looked like it was with her husband's family. And as soon as she saw the book, she asked him in a confused and afraid voice, "Salah, what is this book? Where did you get it from? A man who looks like a monster in front of him. And he came and told me that this is your inheritance. The mother's reaction was that she slapped him on the face and kept screaming, "You black man, I left the world for you. Why did you come after me? Why did you come after me? What do you want from me and my son?" And he kept repeating his words while she hugged her son and cried. And when she did not find any benefit from the slap, she took her son and went to her family, her tribe, although everyone knew what happened to her husband's tribe. But what she did was a mistake that will not be forgiven. Everyone was looking at her like a mirror, except for one who knew her suffering and knew that anyone in her place would not tolerate one day among the devils of the people who were among them. And this one was her father, who welcomed her with a hug and said to her, "Stay with God, my daughter. I know how much he has hurt you, but that's it. He is now in the hands of God and only mercy can be given to him." She answered him in anger, "Who died, my father? Your husband, Muhammad, my daughter. She lied to me, my father. You invented someone important. Even mercy cannot be given to him. Do you believe it? He lost his name. Strange. And when you do not know the news of his death, what brought you, my daughter? Didn't we agree to come to your house and not meet here? My father, I was coming to understand, but that's it. I understood. I understood what inheritance means. What inheritance? Salah will leave me. Now I found a strange book with him. And when I asked him, he told me that someone came to him and told him, "This is your inheritance." The father got down on his knees and his grandson's shoulders and said to him, "What does this man look like, Salah?" "He looks very bad, grandfather. He was black and had a lot of hair on his face and his eyes were red. I seek refuge in God. I seek refuge in God from the worst of God's creatures." The father turned to Al-Intisar and said to her, "And what did you do in the book, Al-Intisar?" "I burned it, of course." "Good. Give me your house in the Quran, my daughter, and get your son used to prayer. And keep in mind, you have to keep Salah away from his father, Al-Intisar. Otherwise, what you ran away from him, you will find him with you in your house." Years passed and Salah grew up and his mother grew up with him. He was stubborn, violent, hard. It was difficult to control him. She tried in every way to love him in prayer, but she failed. The mother knew the end, but she tried her best until the promised day came. Salah was 18 years old, and on his birthday night, a great party was waiting for him. First, it was a dream. He saw in his dream a person he had never seen before. It was his father. The first thing he thought about was his father. He was smiling and he said to him, "The time has come, Salah." "What time, my father?" "The time to take over your inheritance." "What? You forgot? The book?" "But my mother burned it." "What do you think it is?" "It will be easily burned. Your inheritance is waiting for you, Salah. Go to our old house. You will find it buried in the middle of your room. And this is the key to the house." He put his hand on his father's old key. He continued his words, "You have to go tonight, Salah." The young man woke up from his sleep. His father's words echoed in his ear. The key was in his hand. The key that was sure that this was not a dream and that he had to go tonight. Salah was an ambitious young man. He was angry with the poor and his mother's life. He always considered running away from their country. But that's it. These days have passed and it is time to return. Salah did not think about the title in detail. His hand was in the name of the region and the country. And indeed, he traveled there, and since the nomads always lived in the same area, it was natural that when he went, he found all the area from the sons of his tribe. And there he asked for the house of Muhammad al-Adar. Many described the road to him until he reached the house. He opened the door with a key and entered. And from here began the story of Salah al-Adar. As soon as he entered, he felt a terrible heat. He did not see anything from the darkness. But slowly, a faint light began to appear with no source. The light gradually rose and he began to see what was waiting for him. Many creatures that looked strange, like the creature that came in the book. They all looked the same in different sizes. Some of them were short like shoes, and the one that was long. They were standing in 2 rows on the right and left of the young man, as if he were the path of the hero's honor. Saleh did not meet them until he reached the place of the song. He dug under the rubble and found the book. The same book that his mother burned. But this time his pages were not empty. His pages contained words in a language he did not understand. He tried to read them, but he did not understand any of them. And with his attempt to read, he heard a voice echoing in his head. "Do not hurry. We will teach you everything. But in return you will do what we ask of you, as your fathers and ancestors did before." He answered them and said to them, "If you understand the language of this book, what will I get from it? Everything you wish for, excessive power, endless money, and everything you want. I agree. At the beginning of the matter, we want to test your loyalty. We will order you some commands. If you breathe them, you will learn the language of the book." "What are the commands?" "Do not remember your Lord, no matter what happens. You in purity, offer a human sacrifice." "Do you mean kill?" "A child who is not more than 6 years old." At this moment, he found one of the creatures approaching him. He stretched out his hand with a knife carved on it with strange patterns. He took the knife from him and left. He remained waiting in front of the house until he saw a small child running alone. He was playing and hiding from his friends, so he offered to hide him in his house. The innocent child agreed and entered with him. And as soon as he entered, moments in which Saleh did not hesitate, he put the knife on the child's neck, and they slaughtered him coldly. The coldness surprised the jinn themselves. Saleh was not a Muslim, but he was afraid to confess his sin in front of his mother or neighbors. But after the commands of the jinn, he announced his disbelief and lived in his father's house for a whole year, and he disappeared from sight. He learns the Syriac language in which the book is written, and he learns to practice magic without restrictions or limits, until the time comes to apply it and reap the benefits of his knowledge. Saleh returned home and found out that his mother had died in his absence. Out of sadness, he was tired, and because she was alone and without care, she died. The news did not shake the silence of Saleh, who lived his whole life angry with his mother. And after he found out about her death, he opened a shop and worked in it. And a new chapter of his story began, the story of Saleh al-Adar. At that time, doctors were the most important doctors in Egypt, the first refuge for the general public in the treatment of diseases. And the subject developed until they used to go to them in the treatment of magic, touch and harm. As for Saleh al-Shab, he took advantage of this better. And he did not declare himself as a magician at first. No, at first he started to announce herbs that treat cancer, stroke, bone pain, weakness, and others. And in secret, he used to say to his customers that he had excellent qualities to break magic and touch. And he was called a strong healer. And people started to come to him from neighboring neighborhoods and sometimes from other provinces. And the crown brought a pound, and the pound turned into 1,000. And this young man turned into a strong and famous magician. All this without giving up the shop al-Adar, because it was the face that protected him from the anger of people and brought customers to him that he was a smart magician. But at the right time, Saleh began to announce the existence of the qualities of the heart of the beloved and the response of divorce and reproduction. And this because he wanted to attract a new type of customers, a type that does not have faith in God, a type that resorts to magic in everything. And when he began to hesitate about this type, the time came to pay back the debt to the devils. And paying back the debt was a business, to distinguish between marriage, disease, poverty, destruction, and many other things. But al-Adar was not doing this to pay back the debt. He was doing this because the customers of these businesses pay more than others. And years pass and Saleh hurts people with a relaxed conscience. He was the strongest ally of the devil. And although many people hated him, but everyone knew his danger and strength and no one could look up to him. And that's it. It was known about al-Adar that he was the strongest magician in the country. And this aroused the curiosity of the English, and he was sent a message. Officer Wilson. The day began with an unusual visit from an English customer to Saleh's shop. The famous customer came in and said in a weak Arabic accent, "Good morning." A young man from the shop answered, "Good morning, brother. "Come in. I want Sheikh Salah." This sentence was said by the customers, who did not come for the usual adder, and this surprised Salah and his boys, because they are not used to the English customers. But he responded to the Englishman with confidence and said, "Come in, General." Wilson, who was hiding, was amazed by the response, and he knew that he was coming to the right person. Wilson entered the secret room with Al-Adder, where certain interviews were held. And the one who started the conversation was Wilson. "Where did you know I was an officer?" Al-Adder smiled and said, "Wilson, English officer, you have been in Egypt for a short time, but you were able to prove yourself because you defeated many of the secret resistance cells, which drove the English army crazy. Aha, you know a lot about me, but who told you information like this? Your comrade has a long tongue. As they say in our country, what starts in the mouth is full. Do not do these moves, Adder. I do not believe in this talk. Tell me, where did you know? And when you do not believe in this talk, why did Al-Arafah, the magician, come?" The officer was confused and his answer was a clear lie. "Arafah? Arafah who? I do not know this name." Al-Adder smiled with confidence and continued his words. "Al-Arafah, the magician who guides you about the location of the resistance elements. How did you know about this?" I answered you. "And yes, you must know that you are dealing with the strongest of Arafah. If we work together, there must be confidence in my abilities." "Aha, I believe in your strength, sir. Do not joke." "Not a joke, Adder. I know a lot about you, and I could not have come here if I was not sure that you were the right person. After Arafah appeared in the age of repentance, and what is required of me? The same that was required of Arafah exactly. What made you know my name, my job, and my secret agreements with Arafah? And what no one knows about him makes you easily know the location of the cells. Easy. Mahmoud Saber, one of those who are looking for you. If you meet me here tonight, I will take you to the secret base that I have gathered. I will meet you and go. Will you come with me?" "Yes." "Is there a problem?" "No, there is not. But are not you afraid that your people will see you with me?" "No, I do not have family. I do not have a country. I want everyone to see me and be afraid of me. I want my presence anywhere to be a source of terror for his family. I know that no one will love me, but I can earn respect with fear. But in return, I will need something other than money." "What is it?" "This money is mine. But the masters will ask for a carabiner to help us. And their help is the basis of your plan. So we need the carabiner. And what is this carabiner? Do you kill people with it?" "Easy. I will get you prisoners. They must be children. And where do I get them from?" "Kidnap them. But these are innocent children. In order to scare the Arabs from you, tell them that you do not have a heart or mercy. And then they will be afraid of your voice and know that you will not be merciful to them. Ask me. I have lived among them a lot. We do not care about us. But we do not want the world to turn against us in our country. And who will deliver the news in your country? And if the news arrives, tell them that the Arabs started it. Tell them that the children started hitting you. And will someone come after you? You are the great power and authority, brother." Wilson himself was terrified of Salah, but he had to keep his word, and it was an agreement. Salah al-Adder used Sahara to identify the places of the heroes of the Egyptian resistance, and the English were afraid of their places and names, and he was in need of cunning actions to be classified as the most cunning person you can hear about. And at night, the meeting was between Salah and the English army. He was listening to the thoughts of the jinn and he was moving to the Englishman. In front of an old house, the forces stopped. The house was besieged and the bullets worked like rain. A monster attack terrified all the residents of the neighborhood. The neighbors were in the balconies crying over the state of the young men inside. The English soldiers began to take out the bodies. And with the exit of Mahmoud Saber, the hero of the neighborhood, all the tears fell. The sound of the martyrdom was shaking the earth. There is no God but God. The martyr is the beloved of God. Great love for the young man who was the nightmare of the Englishman and the hero of the people. As for the jinn, he was standing looking at the tears in his eyes. Everyone was surprised by his presence. This is an Egyptian figure. What is his relationship with the Englishman? This is the story of Salah al-Adar from the beginning to the present. Mosad's story ended with this sentence. At that time, Murad replied to him while he was angry. Uncle Mosad, will we believe this nonsense? By God, Murad, this is what was written in the man's memoirs. I didn't get anything from him. You asked me to watch him and know information about him. So I watched him and knew his address and the address of his store. But every time I asked someone about him, he would run away from me and wear a white coat. In the end, I had to wait for him to go down to the store. I searched his apartment. I might know something about him. When I searched, I found this book of memoirs. So I brought it and came here. When he has an affair, you bring him tea. His affair didn't tell him why you steal his memoirs in his house. I replied to Murad and told him, what is written in the paper, Murad? What else will Mosad do? Calm down, and God willing, we will know everything about this man. I appreciate Murad's anger. Mahmoud Saber's group was the first group to be exposed from us. And 2 groups were exposed behind it. Who am I? I am Sharaf al-Din, a member of a group of resistance groups. My life's dream is to see the last British soldier, and he is not in the 60s to take him. First, we were doing well, until Officer Wilson came from Britain. On his arrival, he began to expose a group behind us. No one knew how. We are all friends. It is impossible for there to be leaders among us. And if Wilson was able to plant a leader among a group or 2, he would not be able to do this in all the groups. And there was a conspiracy behind Wilson that no one knew about, until the day of the arrest of Mahmoud's group, and a man named Salah al-Adar appeared in it. He was the one who guided the force on the road, and that was the beginning of the line. We watched him, as Musa said. All we could know about him was his name, title, and profession. And what is in these memoirs no one understands yet. Is this really the story of his life? Or is it a novel he wrote about himself? But what was written on the outside of the notebook was a notebook of memoirs. But no one wanted to believe. We were not even ready to face this evil person. We were not even ready to face his jinn and his creatures that we do not see. But really, what would gather an officer on a dagger and let him take all the operations with him, if the sorcerer was more important to him than the soldiers? And at a moment of danger, I thought of a suggestion. And I find myself saying it all automatically. If you want to make sure of what is written, there is only one way in front of us. Know him, the good sorcerer whose name was mentioned. We have to find him and know his way, or at least tell us if he was the one who told Wilson about our places or not. And he knew where and how the places were. And then we will know where this good sorcerer knows us from. My suggestion amazed them. But before any of us could speak, we heard the sound of a fire. And we also heard a voice saying, the English, their number is terrible, and the man is with them. The plan was to escape from the secret tunnel underground. But if the words in these memorials are true, they know the way to the tunnel. And we will go down to find them waiting for us. And that's why I yelled at everyone. No one goes down to the tunnel. Come on, to the roof quickly. The one who heard me was running after me. And the one who did not hear, his end was in the tunnel. We went up to the roof and jumped over the houses and ran away from them miraculously. We hid in the house of Mosad, and sadness was controlling everyone. We lost more than half of us, and the rest of the despair was in him. And at this moment, there was no time for sadness. I found myself yelling at them and saying to them, are we going to keep putting our hands on our throats until they come here too? I replied with despair. And what are we going to do, Sharaf? Are we going to fight Afrit? You and Mosad were right. No one knew the way to the tunnel except the one who wanted to tell them about Afrit or a traitor. What is Afrit? We have a traitor among us, and I must know him. You are also lying. What is the traitor among us, Murad? Everything says that we are facing something bigger than us. No, and you are still stubborn. I tried to avoid this clash and intervened between them. Murad, come with me. Where to? We will look for the magician Arafat. He is our last hope. And you, Mosad, if there is a 1% chance that Salah is not a magician, we will not risk the rest of us. Do not stay in one place for more than a day. and do not plan for anything. Move randomly. I went down with Murad and we went on our way to look for Arafat. The journey was not easy. We were looking for Ibraf Kumash, a man whose name we all know. But Murad had a smart plan. He said to me, "Sharaf, do you remember when we were confused about Wilson and how this officer, who still knew our location easily, when the officers who had been in Egypt for years did not know him? Do you remember what we did then?" Yes, we let Kamal al-Aram watch him. Kamal then said that he was responding to a magician famous in Biba. Do you think it was him? He did not respond to me. We took each other and flew to Biba. There, the search circle was narrower. We started asking around Biba, street by street, until one of us said to us, "Sheikh Arafat is telling the truth." No, they say he was a magician, Hajj. Yes, he is. But no one calls him a magician now. He is Sheikh Arafat now. Mashallah, he is a sheikh now. Not to that extent, but people like to encourage him so that he does not go back to his old ways. Yes, he was showing them the way. Well, Hajj, if we need a service from him, will he help us? It depends. He felt guilty because of what he was doing. If your service concerns someone who is a magician, yes, he will help. Yes, the service concerns people who are a magician. The man pointed to his address and we finally reached Arafat. He was an old man, quiet and cheerful. He did not feel our presence when we entered. After we entered, I tried to stand up and spoke to him loudly. "Peace be upon you, Sheikh Arafat." He was finally relieved and said to me, "Ah, peace be upon you, my son. Who are you?" From what I heard, I understood the nature of the person we are dealing with. I had to start my words in a certain way to make him smooth and cooperative with us. "We are people who are oppressed by you, Sheikh. You have hurt us a lot, but we forgive you. We forgive you, and all that we ask of you is that you help us to return the harm you caused. Do not say that you did something to someone and want to return it. I did not do anything at all. We do not know what you did, and we just asked to understand. You confused me with you, my son. I mean, if you understood, the work will be done by itself. No, but if you told us how you were guiding Wilson to us, we would know how to escape from him." "Wilson?" "Yes, the English officer you were telling us about." "Yes, we were. Welcome, gentlemen. Please come back. This is why you repent." And without talking to me, he said everything. "Wilson, I was not a mosque imam before they visited me, but he showed me the result of my actions, to the extent that I was afraid of me. It is true that I have hurt many people, but I did not see the result of my actions except the money that was blinding me from what I was doing, until Wilson came to me. He heard that I replied to the thefts and asked me how I knew. I tried to explain to him that everywhere is full of jinn. They see us and we cannot see them, and that I am afraid of a jinn of their kind who can communicate with them and inform me of what happened. When I told him this, he became silent and thought. After a long silence, he replied to me, "If I want to know the name of someone, and I gave you his name, can you tell me his address and tell me every word you say in his house?" He told me that he wanted to be like his shadow. I told him, "Easy, it may take some time until we reach him, but as soon as we reach him, I will tell you all the details of his life." When I told him this, he gave me his address. And that's it, it became easier. He told me the name of an Egyptian officer and the address of his house. I told him to come the next day, and when he came, I had all the news, all the details of the officer's life, what he does, who he talks to, everything. But I knew that this officer hates the English and supports the resistance, and communicates with all their members, providing them with all the information and support they need. The patriotism of the people was on me, and I refused to give him the information, but in front of the deception of the amount he offered, unfortunately, I accepted it. I accepted it, and I told him about the names of all the members of the resistance that the officer communicates with, and I knew that he began to fall into them one after the other, until I came to visit one of the resistance who was living near me. He was a good and kind young man, and everyone in the area loved him. The attack on him and his family was terrible, so that a person with my voice, my courage, and my disbelief could not bear it. I cried for the first time in my life, and I swore to God that I would repent, because after that, it was a sin, and it was. I repented, and I stopped drinking, and and until now I am still repenting. Arafat finished his words, and he was crying. I looked at Murad, and it was as if I was telling him that I was right. And before he spoke, He looked at us and said to us, "What are your demands? We asked to hear you and you said, but now we have another request. Wilson, after you, communicate with another magician. His name is Salah al-Adar. The magician's heart is dead, so much so that he goes with Wilson to all the operations of the invasion, and he enjoys what he sees. I seek refuge in God from this crook. You are not a human being, someone who is afraid of death. The important thing now, Sheikh Arafah, is that you help us before this crook finishes us one after the other. The Quran, my son, protects you and prevents the devils from hearing. Do not let the Quran make a difference." Murad replied, Musad was afraid, and he went to Aladar's house, after he saw all the people afraid of him, and he had a Quran in his hand, I remember. I replied quickly, I told him, that's it. That's why Salah didn't know that Musad stole his notes, and he didn't know that he was in his house at all. The conversation was over, and we were walking, but Arafah surprised us with a strange request. She was shocked when he told us that he wanted to stay with us, but we didn't know what to say to him. But when he said to us, "I'm not asking you, I'm just coming. Yes, I have to correct my mistake. I started the path of Al-Adar, and a cursed man must know the consequences of his actions. And if I don't do that, I will live the rest of my life in the clutches of sin. Help me to purify myself before I meet my Lord." We went back to Musad's house, and Sheikh Arafah was with us. Thank God we had called them before they moved. We took them to Murad's house, who started to distribute the Quran to all the people. He turned on the Quran player and let the sound reach every corner of the house. At that time, dinner was served. We prayed and thought about what to do. Why? And Musad started to ask questions when he said, "Is this Arafah?" I replied to him smiling. Sheikh Arafah repented and became a good person, and he wants Kafir from Zanbu to be with us in the next operation. What operation? The revenge operation. We lost a lot because of Wilson and Salah, and now it's time to respond. And what are we going to do with them? Murad replied and said to him, "My plan is ready, but I need a..." Wilson determines the number of his military campaign based on our numbers, so we will give him a trap. What's the trap? Musad will now go to his house and write me the answer. He will tell me that he is waiting for me to give it to him, and that I should be the weapon carrier. And he will ask me to come alone in the answer so as not to attract attention. And I will take a car loaded with weapons, but everything must reach them correctly. And if the jinn will inform them, they do not want him to inform them of anything that doubts them. And of course, Wilson will come with a small number, because he thinks he will catch only 2. And of course, he will be with the cursed one who will not be able to do without him, Salah. And at that time, Wilson will be responsible for Shuraf, who will now stand up and gather the largest number of armed resistance members he can. And Salah will be responsible for Arafah, who will get rid of any helper. And I tell you, Arafah, I want a normal human being, no power or strength around me, even if you use magic with him for the last time in your life. Arafah replied confidently and said to him, with the help of God, I will be able to do it without magic. And Musad and I replied that we understood our role, and each of us is on his way. I am with Musaf, and Musad is without him. After that, I gathered the number I could gather from the rest of us, and we stood far away. We were waiting for Wilson, and as soon as Alfar entered the prison, the strike began. Murad's plan was well planned, and the count was done. Wilson's campaign had a much smaller number than every time. It was easy to detain them and kill them in the shortest time. But Murad was not counted. Murad came out of the window and was hitting Wilson, and alhamdulillah he was able to hit him. But unfortunately, one of the soldiers hit Murad. And after we finished the campaign, I rushed home and took Murad upstairs. And on the other side, there was another battle going on. Salah, when the strike began, was going to use a seduction, but that was before Arafah was surprised when he read the verses of the seduction of the jinn. And believe me, the verse of the chair was enough for a person who thought he was a god. Suddenly, he found himself helpless, without any protection from his demons. He tried to run, but Arafah ran after him until he found him in the street of a dam. And then Arafah smiled and said to him, "This is the origin of the seduction. Where are you going with me?" This is the long journey that your feet will not reach. I am the journey that you will walk in. I am the journey that you will walk in. Then, man, no matter how much you learn and become powerful, and become a well-known magician, where will you go from Arifa? Aladdin thought that Arifa would use magic against him, and that's what made Salah call his demons. And it was the trap. Arifa read the Quran with verses that burn and destroy the evil jinn. And he knew that the revenge of the other 10 would be from Salah, because he is the cause of their burning. And that's it. He left Arifa the black destiny that he deserves. And before he left the street, he heard his voice screaming. On the other hand, Al-Murad left. But unfortunately, I did not catch up with him. Muse-Ad was holding him and crying. I ran to him and cried from my heart. And nothing. A moment later, I found Muse-Ad patting me and telling me, "May God have mercy on him. A martyr, a hero who does not cry for him. You can't be weak. You are the leader of his place now, Sheriff." I remembered a song that we always sang. A song that used to say, "Freedom is free, it does not exist. And it died to live. It is enough for people a song to leave its name in your pockets. The money of our country is his legacy. He wrote for every hero his chapter. He falls, stands up, and reaches. Without your children, he will remove you. And you live, and he will separate your nails. Your martyr's soup on the nails. And we say this is a step inside the road. There is no step on the empty. And that's it. This is the end of the story. I hope you liked it. I thank Mr. Olivert James very much for his book for this story. And for the context of the events in this view. Thank you very much. And I thank you for reaching this far. And as long as you have reached this far, you liked the story. So do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel if we are not subscribed. And activate the bell button to receive all new. Because sometimes YouTube does not send the story as soon as it is released. So we are sure that we are subscribed. Because most of the events that we do not see there are there. And we do not forget our brothers in prayer everywhere. In Palestine, Syria, Sudan, Lebanon. And in all places where Muslims and non-Muslims are weak. May God help them all soon. And have mercy on all our martyrs. See you in the next episode. Good night.